Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is our weekly Auburn baseball and Auburn softball live stream. We're going to discuss the week that was in the Diamond Sports. Your Auburn baseball team taking one of three from the Tennessee Volunteers, and a lot to talk about it from that series. And the softball team finishing out their home schedule against Georgia, taking the series and sending the seniors out on a very emotional but happy note. And well, those are the things we'll be talking about here on this live stream. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We appreciate you hanging out with us to spend some time with us here to talk about what we love about all things Auburn. As you come into the stream, please do make sure that you smash that like button, post in the comments where you're watching from, City, State, International with a War Eagle. Want to know who is hanging out with us and talking about Auburn baseball and softball with us on this show. As has been the case, I try to get some familiar voices for you guys on these live streams when they're available to do so. And I went out and searched of the best out there. And unfortunately, all I could find was Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database. I don't know why you're not surprised by this now, Clint.
I'm not. But like, damn.
You should know by now that I'm going to lead you in that way.
Anybody out there who has actual broadcasting experience, come work with this guy and give him some experience on segues and introductions. That would be great, because this is all I get out of him.
Dang, we're off on all cylinders already right now.
Hey,
Clint,
look,
welcome.
I give you what you give me.
That is fair. How's it going, buddy? How you doing?
It's all good.
How you feel about this weekend against Tennessee? We'll get into details and stuff, but how you feeling after it?
I love the fight.
Yeah. That's it? Just fight?
Well, you said we'll get into it later. I love this team's fight.
So
I really enjoy this team.
How about this? Do you enjoy the fight figuratively or literally?
We'll get to that later.
A little later. A couple people already checking in. Thomas, thanks for being here. One of our channel members. Thank you, sir. Good to see you as always. You guys post your comments and questions throughout the night as we talk about some of the Diamond Sports as well. Clint, I know you are mainly a baseball guy, but we obviously try to talk a little bit of softball here too. Did you watch or follow any of the softball action this week?
Of course. I wish you could see my setup. I've got baseball streaming on the TV and softball streaming on the tablet and other sports playing elsewhere. So,
as it should be. I am so proud of you, sir. I expect nothing less. Even though I talk down to you when I intro you into shows, I expect big things from you.
I mean, I said it. I think I said it on here last time I was on. This time of year, especially like early March, is the best time of the season when you have every sport colliding. The athletics department calls it crossover season.
Yep.
It's such a great season. It's so much fun. And to have, you don't have to worry about it during football season. I mean, if you want to have a Buffalo Wild Wings setup, sure, be my guest. But when it comes to following every Auburn sport, this is the greatest time of the year. Having multiple TVs and multiple devices playing multiple different sports, it's so much fun.
If we can just get them to broadcast equestrian and track meets on a regular basis, we might actually have something.
Yep.
But there's not enough. I don't know if there's enough channels to cover all that action. The SEC network has a hard time trying to fit everybody in for baseball and softball.
Well, let's not get started on the SEC network alternate channel.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one. That's not being used right, hardly ever that they have.
I told you not to get me on it. Let's not talk about it. That's a special E2C extra episode.
Yeah, we can talk about that another day. All right, well, let's do a real quick recap of what's happened. I kind of briefed everybody at the very start of this, but as we said, Auburn baseball took one game out of a 3-game series this week with Tennessee. They lost in the first game 4-17. Oof. Won the second game 8-6 and lost the last game by the skin of their teeth 3-5. It was a very close game, but they also got a win at Jacksonville. Yes, 8-4, which I hear. Let me start there since we've started with baseball. I've heard that Jacksonville State's baseball stadium is really nice. Have you ever seen it or heard about it?
I would love to go to a game there. My senior year at Auburn was 2017. So, wife and I went to as many road games as we could, which, it was just a lot of the in-state teams. So we went to Sanford, we went to Hoover, we went to Montgomery, and we went out of state to Georgia Tech and Kennesaw, which were all so much fun to do. Those are easy day trips and they're cheap events. Go do those if you can. I would love to go to JSU. I would love to go to South Alabama, and any of these other teams that we play, I'm down to do it.
Yeah, I've heard that this is a really nice baseball stadium, and you see this a lot. Not so much in like football, but even in basketball, you see it a little bit where these smaller schools are actually pretty competitive, and have some really good rivaling facilities sometimes. So I've heard great things about Jacksonville's.
Well, and when you look at
stadium.
JSU, they have been really moving up. For the longest time they were Ohio Valley Conference, and now they're in the A-Sun, and they're continuing to move up. I think they're playing in, I don't know, all this conference realignment kind of confuses me at times, but Jacksonville State continues to improve and put their athletic department in a better situation every single year. So when you see a team like that, they're definitely strapped for cash financially, but I mean, JSU just continues to compete, and that's a very entertaining to watch.
Well, and they have a pretty strong fan base too, from what I understand. What's interesting, kind of using that to segue over to like a broader conversation about baseball in the state of Alabama. I wish I could remember who to credit, but I saw it on Twitter. I think it was yesterday. I don't think they said to some degree, I don't think people realize how awesome of a day it was for the state of Alabama. It was like UAB did something, Sanford did something. Auburn and Alabama are the only teams in the SEC to beat Tennessee now. Like, it's not just a football state, folks. It's a state that runs a lot of college athletics. You go look at gymnastics. Frankly, you can start making case for track and field now too. If people actually pay attention to it, there's some pretty good track and field being competed, I guess, at Auburn and Alabama. So baseball.
Well, and you and I talked about it before many, many times on Inside the Jungle about let's have a statewide basketball tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And the same needs to be said about baseball. Again, JSU has been moving up. UAB is competing at as high level as they've ever done.
Sanford's competitive. Yeah.
Casey Dunn had Sanford running on all wheels until moving to UAB this year. South Alabama is year in and year out a solid school. UNA is also moving up in the ranks, and now they're D1. So, let's play all of them. I'm down for it. Let's put them all in Montgomery. I mean, I remember growing up in Huntsville and being told like, oh hey, Auburn baseball used to play here. And when I dive into the history, like Auburn and Alabama used to play, I think, in all three big cities. Rotating each year kind of thing. And let's do it. Auburn and Alabama should play every single chance they get in all three markets, all four markets if you count Mobile. Absolutely. Right. Do it.
Well, and you see this becoming more of a common thing too in other sports as well. I mean, USFL is operating entirely out of Birmingham this year. People understand that this state digs sports in any capacity, and we will show up, especially if you can attach one of the universities to it. If you do that, namely Auburn, fans are going to show up and support it.
My mother and I have said for years, you put an Auburn or Alabama logo on absolutely anything, it'll sell.
It will.
On a keychain, on a piece of toilet paper, on a rock, it will sell. So use that to your advantage when you're selling entertainment or services like this. And you see people do that all the time.
I'm so glad that you can't see the far corner over here with all the other stuff.
Pure example of what I just said.
I've gotten rid of stuff actually recently. So, I'm the quintessential example of what you're talking about.
High functioning hoarder over there.
Oh yes. This is not like, actually my room is very neat. I mean,
I too am a high functioning hoarder. You don't want to see my storage.
You hoard specific things. I hoard everything. So
no, you say that. You haven't seen my storage.
That's fair. All right. I know we want to talk specific baseball, but Dusty brings up obviously let me say this. He volunteered this topic. Dun, dun, dun. I had no idea, as Clint doesn't want to look at me, that UT had an actual clown as a manager. Strong words, probably not too far from the truth. This, if you missed what happened this weekend in the second game, Auburn came back and got a lead on Tennessee, the number 1 team, off a nice little home run from who was it? Who hit the home run? Was it
Bobby Pierce?
Bobby Pierce hit the home run. On the home run, he did a nice little bat flip. It's not an uncommon thing.
Bat flip.
Routine bat flip. It happened to bounce over towards the Tennessee dugout a little bit. They should have ducked, apparently. And the coach, Vitello, for Tennessee, took exception to that and decided that it was a great idea while the guys were running the bases and the team was coming out to home plate to celebrate with them for taking the lead against the number 1 team and having a little fun with it. It was a great idea to toss that back over towards them as you typically would, but while there were people all around. So you can see that some people had some hurt feelings all the way around. Things were said. There was nearly a fight. Really, it was Tennessee trying to cause the fight. Did I do a good job summing up kind of what happened?
I think so.
What a mess. What a mess.
Was. And there's credit on both sides. So there's blame on both sides. Absolutely.
Yes.
Give Tennessee's, I don't know who the coach was, but he ran up and he was on the third base side, was stopping his team from going any further. So I don't know who he was or what he was doing on the field, but that man deserves a lot of credit.
He does.
To stop it. I mean, look, I know they're older in age than everybody else on that field, but if you want to go up against Tim Hudson and Gabe Gross, be my guest. Oof. I wouldn't. But we know that Tony Vitello does not fight fair, and who knows what he's packing. I'm glad we didn't find out. But, I said this on Twitter, and I think you and I spoke about it the other night. What Bobby did was not out of line.
No.
A bat flip should be celebrated. A bat flip is what baseball as a sport in general needs. Mm-hmm. Bat flips are fun as hell. Mm-hmm. And anybody who says the unwritten rules of baseball deter it, who cares? I don't want to talk about unwritten rules. Who cares at all? So the bat went a little too far. All right, who cares? So what? Oops. Vitello grabbing the bat and tossing it back to the Auburn side. Sure, fair game. Let's speed up the game. Let's help out a little bit. It's a little caring, however you want to describe it. Tossing it 30 feet in the air and having it bounce at the feet, not into the feet, but at the feet of players who are already congregating. If you want to call it dangerous, go ahead. It's a metal bat. It can hurt. It was just out of line. And Tony Vitello has become, whatever you want to call him, a villain of baseball. I think he's a hell of a coach. Look at what he's done at Tennessee. They played the graphic all 3 games. Coming from a dumpster fire of the program to making the College World Series to being the number 1 team in the country. He has done an incredible job in Knoxville.
Right.
But the culture that he has with that team and the culture that he carries himself with is kind of disgusting. I'm not a fan of it personally. Of course, the rebuttal on Twitter from all the UT fans was, you would love him if he was your coach. Like, probably. I mean, my NFL team hired Urban Meyer.
I was wondering if he was going to bring that one up.
And I couldn't stand it. I don't care if he's a good coach. I don't like the guy. And, Vitello has been really good for baseball at times. Just bringing awareness to the sport, making it enjoyable. But your team is as flashy and as showboaty as they get in college baseball.
Right.
And then the bat just accidentally went a little too far, and you have objection to it.
Yep.
Now, if you paid attention on Friday night after game 1, there was as some people thought, a tense moment in the handshake line as the coaches
Oh, I
shook
didn't
hands.
catch this part.
Yeah, I don't think you did. So the camera was from the Auburn dugout, and it showed the back of Butch Thompson going to shake hands with Tony and his staff. And Tony clearly says something, stops and just stares at Butch, who just kept walking, and then shakes his head like, "Oh no." And the person who tweeted the video said, "I wonder what happened here. Butch must have said something." And if any of you people know Butch at all, he's the world's nicest man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of meeting him and getting to know him and his family many times. I love Butch Thompson. I love the Thompson family. He is my favorite coach on campus. I said that for years. There is nothing that man could ever say to upset Tony Vitello like that.
Mm-hmm.
The sources came out and said Tony asked how the pitcher's arm was doing, Hayden Mullins, who went out with an elbow injury in the 4th inning. And Butch reportedly said it's not good. That's all it was. And some people always want to dig into all these different little things and think there's beef between these two schools and these two coaches, and there's not.
Right.
Stop making up lies. Stop reading into every little thing. Your conspiracies are not how life actually happened.
Oh,
you can have the soapbox back.
I feel like there's other things going on there that you're kind of speaking for, but without saying it too. So
no, I said everything I know.
Now, look, I said it this way, and the thing that bothers me about this whole situation is Vitello's decision to do that, and then refusal to acknowledge, hey, I probably shouldn't have tossed that at that moment that hard. That was because I think if he comes out of the game and says, I did not appreciate the bat flip, it bounced too close to us, I don't think it was intended, and then I made a reactionary decision to throw it at the wrong time, not trying to hit anybody, but that I do apologize. If he had said that, over with, done.
Absolutely.
But that's not the Vitello way, as we've come to know.
And I just remembered this one. This one came out today, or at least I saw it today. Apparently, after one of the home runs, I'm guessing it was on Sunday, that go-ahead run in the bottom of the 8th, the batter runs to first and looks at the pitcher and says, "Eat my something."
Yes. Thank you for censoring yourself.
And that's a culture thing.
Yeah.
Now we've got 3 different strikes on this program right now. We've got the bat throwing incident. We've got Tony doing whatever he does. Like, this is a culture thing that starts from the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the reasons that I'm not a big Vitello fan. Again, I already praised him as a coach. He's a dang good coach. Yes, I think so, absolutely. I was just not a fan of the way that he has built this team and the mentality that this team falls.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw somebody on Twitter today make a really good point. And if you want to debate it, go ahead. That said that for the past couple of years, Tennessee fans and Tennessee media have had it out against the national media and other people who are not in Knoxville, Nashville, or Tennessee in general. And they always try to play the victim.
Oh, yeah. And you saw that happen with fans.
And you saw that happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't have many, but I had a handful of Tennessee fans come into my mentions Friday night, Saturday night after the bat flip, and just make excuses and try to poke fun. It's like, and I saw a lot of just bad, stupid takes by people in Knoxville. And it's like, again, I'm at the point in my life where I don't stick my neck out for something stupid like this. I'm going to let my team fight. I don't live and die by the wins and losses of the team anymore. I wish a lot of other people would follow through on that one.
Yeah, it's a very poor mark on a list of marks that are accruing for the Tennessee program. I would say that even extends a little bit beyond baseball. We don't get into that tonight, but football, throwing stuff on the field.
Yep.
McDonald's bags. We could keep going on and on. Regardless, it's a poor thing that marred a great game because you had the number 1 team And arguably, Auburn, who is the question was being asked this weekend and has been asked a lot this season, are they for real? I think, and this is kind of, I guess, where we can switch our discussion point a little bit. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me address the question that Devin had down here before we move on. Do you think the SEC needs to take action, like fine him or something for the bat incident? Do I think they should? Yes. Or something should be addressed. I'm not saying what that should be, but something needs to be addressed. Will they? My answer is no, because they would have done it by now. The weekend's out. Monday's done. It's the big news cycle day. Clint, any different takes?
I don't think anything will ever be done unless this just continues to escalate. I do know for a fact that the former head coach for Auburn baseball, his name shall not be mentioned here. He had
a sunny day outside.
I prefer Sunny D than Sunny G.
Well played.
But he had a way with, arguing, and his mentality in Oklahoma was very abrasive and very aggressive. And I heard many, many stories that when he came to Auburn, the former commissioner, Mike Slive, sat him down and said, "We don't do that here in the SEC. So you better chill out or you won't be here anymore," or, whatever that conversation looked like. And you could see it. You could see how scared that man was after that conversation, because there were plenty of times that man ran out onto the field and argued a call that didn't really need to be argued. But yes, he who will not be mentioned. But then there were calls where just clearly in the wrong, and he didn't budge, didn't move. And if you pay attention to those kind of things, if you watch Butch Thompson, I love his mentality and his characteristics in person and on the field. He'll chirp from the dugout. He'll calmly walk out, and ask a question. There are very few times you see Butch Thompson angry. And if you want a really good example, go back to 2019 when we're playing at Vanderbilt. Remember, Vandy's got an all-turf field, which is disgusting.
No. So we agree that Vanderbilt makes poor athletic facility choices.
There are many poor decisions up there.
Such as a basketball arena that should never exist.
No, that one's fine. I love
no.
Don't.
No, Clint. No.
But you know who's on the mound that Friday night? Tanner Burns. You know what starts happening that Friday night? It starts to rain. Starts to pour. You know what happens on carpet? You slip.
Yeah.
Guess who got hurt?
Tanner Burns.
Guess who didn't get to help us pitch very well beyond that series and into the College World Series? Tanner Burns.
Right.
I have never seen Butch Thompson come unglued like he did in Vanderbilt because they failed to call the game off, waiting on Tanner to get hurt. And it was such a great sight to see. I loved it.
Yes. All right. I do want us to talk a little bit about some stuff that Auburn did well and things that we noticed about them. TOSA says Auburn was literally 2 bad pitches away from winning the series, and one I blame on the umpire on a bad call. Yeah, that can be debated. It was. But I don't want us to get so focused on the things that we can't control and the things that we can. And I want us to actually celebrate some things that happened this weekend that I was starting to say earlier, and we will touch on this in just a second. Dusty, great question. The question was being asked, is Auburn for real? I know I've got my orange and blue glasses on, I've got my orange and blue shirt on, everything. I know I'm an Auburn fan saying this. I get that, folks. I think Auburn showed this weekend that they're for real.
Absolutely.
It's not just because they won a game. That's not what qualifies you as being for real. What qualifies you is the body of work. And then when faced with adversity, what do? Auburn faced a lot of adversity in that first game. Hayden Mullins goes down, Burkhalter goes down, and then a just onslaught of disgusting offense from Tennessee. Auburn had every reason to lay down and just make it through the weekend. Instead, they came out and shut the Tennessee Volunteers up to the level that you can on the second game of the week. And then made it a game of it on the third one. I was so proud of them. This is, to me, you look at moments in the season where you look for where the team buys in, where they realize they've got something going there, but the fan bases look for that as well. You can kind of look back to the 2013 LSU game for football. That's like an example. I'm not saying that we're about to go on this amazing run, but I look back at this series as validation for this team that they are for real, that they are one of the best in the SEC. And taking one away from a team like Tennessee that has 105.5 miles per hour pitches coming out of somebody's hand, that's something to be proud of. What's your just overall take about Auburn's performance from this series?
I said it at the top of the show after you dobbed me in my intro, but I love this team's fight. This is one of those teams that you can really fall in love with from top to bottom.
Yeah.
You and I talked the other night and talked about how, this pitching staff is still missing an ace. We don't have a Casey Mize, and I don't know if we'll ever find another Casey Mize, but
right.
There's no Tanner Burns, there's no Keegan Thompson, there's no really stud ace pitcher right now. If Blake Burkhalter is your ace, we'll have to kind of argue if that's a good thing or not. But that's not to say that we have a bad pitching staff. Hayden Mullins has come in and truly performed, and God, I hope he's okay. He met with Dr. Andrews today. I expect we'll find out tomorrow. It's into that one. I bet he's done for the year. But I really, really hope that it's not that bad. Trace Bright has just finally kind of come out of the shell. I mentioned to you, Kyle, that when he came to Auburn, he was incredibly highly touted, highly recruited, had really high expectations on him. And when you look back at his last couple of years, he struggled. And I know there's a COVID year in there, but he was not the talent that you thought he was, and he's not really molded into the talent that we thought he could be. He's shown a lot of bright, no pun intended, spots this year, and I'm really, really happy with how he's performed. Going 6+ innings on Saturday with the injuries we have in the bullpen on Friday is incredible. That's what he needs to do.
Right.
And I don't nobody deserves more praise than Joseph Gonzalez. Gonzo has just been a stud, and he has been all year. Last year he was a pretty decent pitcher, but I think whether it was being a foreign player, coming to Auburn, coming to college, whatever it was, just something wasn't clicking with him. And you see it this year. He's a man on a mission. Takes him an inning or two to settle in, but he's going to get you 7+ innings. Yeah. And again, when you don't have a very deep bullpen, when you don't have a lot of great go-to arms that can get you out of situations, that's very beneficial. So should Hayden be, let's talk Hayden before the injury. Hayden going 6+ innings, passing off to Skipper, passing off to Burkhalter. That was a winning combo.
Yep.
Winning trio. Trace Bright going 6+ innings, solid. I would love to see him go 7+, maybe even 8. I think he could. He's not the most efficient pitcher in the world. His pitch count really gets him in trouble at times, but I think that he's a really talented arm. And then Gonzo going, a full 9 innings a couple of weeks ago in conference. He's so well, conditioned and keeps his pitch count low. Yeah. And I want to see more of Gonzo out of that. And again, I losing Hayden's going to be a big hit. And that poor kid getting hit in the head in LSU, and now his elbow explodes on him in Tennessee. He might need to be in a padded room, in a bubble.
Somebody put him in a bubble until game time. Just leave him there.
And never let him leave the state of Alabama, the city of Auburn, ever again.
A couple of things about that. Gonzo is just amazing. It's amazing what can happen in a year when whatever, like you said, the reason is that, things weren't just exactly clicking for him last year. It now seems to be rolling out. Now, I really enjoy him. I found myself yesterday, and I'm not a pitch count watch type of guy, but I found myself looking up there, and I'm like, wow, that's really nice. Wow, that's really nice. Wow, that's really nice management. And you really see that he is a ground ball type of pitcher. It's almost like he wants the batters to put it in play, because what he does is he presents it in a way It makes it easier for his players to get outs. Now, look, Tennessee, you probably don't want to have them getting the bat on the ball a lot because they just have the bats to do that. But
not at home park either.
yes. So obviously in the end, it didn't work out for him. But to this question, Dusty says, if Hayden is done, who moves into the rotation?
I think the best way to handle that is you just move those two starters up a day. I think Gonzo has really shined with that Sunday role, and I would really hate to take him out of that, especially losing a day of rest. Yeah, I don't know who you start. I don't know who gets that start. I think you might see Auburn kind of play into an opener position. Bring one of those, one of the Armstrongs, one of the Carsons, and let them start a game and go an inning or two, and then let's play the bullpen game. These weekend games might turn into more midweek looking games with bullpen wise, and just letting, we're not going to expect 2 or 3 guys to finish a game. We're going to see 5 or 6. And the only game you go to is the Sunday one. Just playing for a long day.
I'm kind of the opinion I'd like to see them keep it as is and use the kind of by committee action that we were seeing on the first game. I know that doesn't set you up well for success.
I don't know if you can. I
don't
know if you can waste day one.
That's why I'm.
They don't pay me. They don't pay you. They pay Butch and they don't pay Tim either. But
does Tim need to be paid? Let's be honest.
Well,
let me ask you this. Let me rephrase that. Does Tim deserve to be paid? Yes. Does Tim need to be paid? No.
Well, in positive for the sport of baseball, it looks like we might be getting that third coach finally. So,
and do you think
very beneficial?
Do you think that keeps Tim around for a while if that happens?
I mean, how can you not keep a volunteer around longer than he needs to be like that? But yeah, it was very disappointing last year, the year before, when they vetoed adding a third coach. I believe the news this week was that they're going to be allowed to add as many coaches as they want, depending on the conference, which I don't like that idea. Like, let's max it out at 4 or something. But I mean, it's crazy to me that, I mean, this is the issue with the NCAA and the rules, and a lot of the issue with Title IX and stuff, like 11.7 scholarships for 35 guys. It's crazy. And 35 guys only get to be coached by 2 paid coaches. That's ridiculous. So I'm all for it. Add it. Add that team.
Those are feelings for another day and another issues to be discussed. Another thing. I do want us to discuss a little bit of softball, but keep your comments and questions coming if you have some about baseball or even softball. Now, I just want us to acknowledge, isn't it great to always get a win and a series win over Georgia?
Yes.
You are one person that has, I put you in this category of people, Clint, that has this, and I mean this with all the love that I can, this obsession with beating Georgia.
What is that?
I do, but like I've been talking about this a lot lately. Some of the people who've been here on the live stream tonight, they've heard me talk about this on our Wednesday night. There's this like new wave. It's not new, but a wave of increasing strength of just hating Georgia more than Alabama, almost. Like, and to me, I get it, but I don't at the same time. So
my point on that is, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. I grew up where, an Auburn fan and an Auburn engineer were a dime a dozen.
Right.
We did not see many Auburn fans, and I was always the minority growing up in the cotton fields of North Huntsville. I spent so much time with people who just picked Alabama because they only knew the name.
Right.
It's the state name. Nobody knows what an Auburn is. Who cares? I knew people that picked Auburn solely because the colors were better. 99% of both parties couldn't pick either place on a map. And I grew to really hate those kind of people. Those people were obnoxious. Those are the kind of people who you're 3 hours from Tuscaloosa, 4 hours away from Auburn. You didn't have any input on the game at all. You've never been to Tuscaloosa. You've never seen Tuscaloosa's name on a map. Like, shut up. It wasn't until I moved, like, there were only 2 Georgia fans that I knew growing up. 2. Wasn't until I got to Auburn in the fall of 2012 that I discovered that people hated Georgia. I didn't know that was a thing. You know, if we had to pick an East team, it's probably going to be Georgia. My family liked Mark Rick, nice guy. You know, strong in his faith, did a lot of good in the community. He's a good dude. Like to see him succeed, kind of thing. But man, I learned about the hatred for Georgia and wanting to beat Georgia more than anybody else.
Right.
And I was shocked by it. I was shocked. So, you know, to me, I mean, Alabama is still the number 1 team you want to beat.
Right.
I would honestly put Oklahoma as number 2, especially with them coming in. Don't like Oklahoma. And man, you know, my parents moved to Florida when they first got married. I have family here in Jacksonville, and they despise Florida fans.
Yeah.
I have nothing against Florida fans.
Oh, see, I Florida fans are pretty high up for me.
I have very little against Tennessee fans. And if you asked an Auburn fan 40 years ago who they hated most, it's any of those 4 teams. Mm-hmm. Those older fans have nothing against an LSU fan. Yet my generation and your generation has more against LSU fans than we do not. So conference realignment really shook a lot of that up, and it's really funny when you think about it like that. You know, from the until 1992, those generations can't stand Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. Yet from 1992 on, I have more resentment against Arkansas, the Mississippi schools, LSU, than I do Tennessee. Tennessee's never bothered me until this week.
That's true. Well,
2009 football bugged me, but that's a different story.
To be honest, for me, it always, just to kind of round that out, was obviously Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Florida. And then I used to always say it was like, because I didn't care about anybody else, I used to say like USC or somebody like that. But Tennessee is very quickly, especially after this weekend, moving up into that list. So,
I mean,
anyway,
it's 3 tiers really. It's the teams that you really want to beat: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, and then the teams that nobody really cares and forgets that they're in the SEC: Vandy, Missouri, South Carolina,
Arkansas.
Probably Kentucky. And then you've got the rest of the teams right there in the middle of, who cares?
Who cares? All right, real quick though, off that subject, they get the series win, and you know, a very I will say emotional send off for their 2 seniors, Sam Yarbrough and Aspen Godwin. And Aspen Godwin got a home run in it was her last at bat, if I'm not mistaken, to end out her career at Auburn, which was really cool to watch. I had that like on repeat a couple of times. Those are the things that like you dream about, you know, as a player, I'm sure.
It's both of them, you know. Aspen. So again, Auburn might be hosting regionals. We'll have to see. So it might not be her last at bat in Auburn, but
that's true.
Let's just say it is. It's an amazing way to end it. It's a shame it was only a solo and couldn't help inch that lead. But Sam, who hasn't really pitched a whole lot this year, I think she might have been injured last year. She came in at the top of the 7th and went 3 up, 3 down. So they both had incredible finishes to their regular season Auburn careers. And you just love, you know, you've heard me rant on this before. The one thing in sports that I can't stand more than anything is sending a senior out on a bad note.
Right.
Sending a senior out who never got to experience success. And if you sat through Auburn football 2008, Auburn football 2012, Auburn basketball during the He Who Shall Not Be Named 2 seasons, like that hurts. When you see these guys and these ladies committing all their time and their life to your team and not seeing any results out of it, that really hurts.
It does.
That's sad. That's upsetting. And you want to give them something. You want to give them success and a ring and something. And just to see them go out on something like that is really, really cool.
And I think why it was probably very emotional for them, but also very special for them is because there's a lot of talk around what's this team going to look like next year. If the pitching solidifies itself overall, the hitting is there. They've got arguably one of the best hitters in Bree Ellis, who's just a freshman. I can't remember if she's broken the record by
I don't think she did.
Casey Cooper.
I don't think she has.
You don't think she has?
Don't think so.
I feel like we would have made a bigger deal about it. She was on track to break the record, but I think
well, she still has 3 more games in the regular season to do so. Let me see. What was? Oh, she's at 18 home runs. Does that tie it?
It might be. It might have it tied, but I feel like we still would have made a bigger deal about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either way, I think what my point for that is that it felt like these 2 girls are kind of like the torchbearers for the next wave. And there's a lot of anticipation building for the team next year. And it's almost kind of like you look back on the KT Horrells and what they had to go through.
Absolutely.
And while KT obviously was a much more contributing factor to even those teams, I wouldn't say that Aspen Godwin, yes, but I think Sam, as you said, whether it was because of injury or anything, hasn't played a ton. You still feel like these girls were the torchbearers to get you to that next great wave. And so I think that's why that's probably so special there. So I hope you're right. I hope we get it.
To your point, Mickey Dean has kind of struggled here at Auburn until this year. A lot of people didn't know if he would be back next year, and then he signs a contract extension a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
So, I mean, they really did kind of pass that torch on from the Myers era to the Dean era, and they're sending their team out on a better step than what they came into. So, again, if that's all you can do, if that's your impact on the world, on your program, you did a good job.
Yep, I agree. All right, to round out our show, a couple things I want to mention that obviously softball is not, they're done with their home series. They'll have another one before we start getting into postseason play away, though. And that's do you have that up right now, Clint? I can't remember who it is. It's not Kentucky. I know that it's because baseball's got the last series at Kentucky. Tennessee. Okay. Well, we'll get another Tennessee round. Hopefully we don't get any fights this time. Well, you go to Florida in softball for that. Regardless, you go regardless of that. Baseball, no midweek game. There's exams this week. Everybody's focused on that. And then they will have a very important series with number 2 Arkansas. I would argue this weekend is more important than the one that we just had because of West Division stuff. Arkansas is in the lead of that. You've got, I think, if I remember correctly, Auburn and LSU now tied with each other. Auburn having the tiebreaker because of them getting the series against them. So I think if Auburn can come 2 wins out of this weekend, they have now positioned themselves to be very secure going into postseason play. I'm not saying no matter what happens, but no matter what happens.
Well, the goal when Ole Miss came earlier in the season to start the SEC season, they were number 1. The goal was to win 1, and Auburn did that. And I'm sure the goal this weekend was to win 1, and Auburn did that. So Auburn's got 2 wins over number 1 teams. That's nothing to scoff at. Going 4-2 against number 1, I'll take that. Again, Auburn just hasn't really crested that hill just yet. This is a really good opportunity to do that. You're back home. Finals are over. Get some rest. Let's hope and pray that Hayden Mullen's elbow is okay. But let's go out there and show them what Auburn baseball is. Arkansas is a scary team.
It is.
And Auburn has not had many good road trips out to Arkansas, so thank God it's back at Auburn. But I mean, these are big weekends. There's never a time off in the SEC. You move from the number 1 team in the country in Tennessee to number 2 in Arkansas. Then you've got a really strong Alabama team, and then you finish the season off in Lexington against Kentucky, another place that Auburn hasn't really performed well at times. So
it's not over.
It's not over. So at this point, I think Auburn's position in Hoover is locked. Which is really nice. Well, there's been far too many seasons that we've had to just cross our fingers that Auburn makes it to Hoover. So I think we can do that if we keep playing the way we are. This team will get a first day off. Won't play till was that Wednesday, Thursday? I always forget the Hoover schedule. But Auburn's still vying for that 15th, 16th national seed to host a regional, which would be incredible. It's been far too long since Auburn has hosted a regional. Was it the 2010 season?
That feels right.
I think it was. I
think we lost Clint. Maybe he'll come back in just a second. There he is. What's up? There you are.
It was working fine over here.
I know. I just like you were stuck in this kind of pose, like
I'm great.
Finish your thought.
But hosting a regional could do wonders for this program and to revitalize. The fan base has done an incredible job coming out to Plainsman Park, and I fully expect it to be packed this weekend. Yep. It's a good time to be an Auburn fan.
It is. It's been despite football and their struggles, it's been a very good year all the way around when you count in, basketball. Even with a brand new year for women's basketball and the brand new coach, they had some high points. Gymnastics, obviously, and what they pulled off.
This is exactly why, the E2C Network's mantra, and personally, we always push, pay more attention to not just football.
Exactly.
Yep. Football isn't the only. Football drives a lot. Football is the bus. There's a lot of other teams. Pick one, pick some players. Let's just have fun. Sports are fun.
Pick them all. Like that's
not hard to pay attention to them all.
You don't have to, I'm not asking people to be, know the roster of the track and field team. I don't know the full roster, but I can tell you who the star ones are. Yeah. So I can tell you who the stars are of that. But that's the thing is I stress to people is you will be a much happier and healthier Auburn fan if you value the whole of the Auburn experience and not just the football. The football is king and will always be king. And as you said, is the engine that drives the car. That's not what we're saying. But your car will not perform. It's just an engine without the other parts of it. So anyway, you got me on my soapbox.
And I grew up as a football-only family. The other sports didn't exist because we were 4 hours away. Family owned a business. We couldn't travel to Auburn whenever we wanted. We went to, between 1 and 3 games a year. It was a rare treat to get to Auburn. Then the SEC network came out. It's like, oh crap, there are more sports out there. What is this? And it's just so much fun. Find a way. For me personally, I always felt like I had to be invested. When my brother played sports, I couldn't just sit on the sidelines and watch. I had to do something. I took book. I was the scorekeeper. I was bat boy. I was rebounder. Whatever it was, I had to be involved somehow. And that's exactly what the Auburn Uniform Database is for me now. To pay attention to the uniforms. That's how I stay involved.
Yeah.
Find you something that interests you across all these sports. Pay attention. It's fun.
It is. And that's a great segue for you as we close out our show tonight. Where can they find all your stuff?
Oh man, you got decades, centuries worth of Auburn uniforms at the Auburn Uniform Database at auburnuniforms.com. You can follow me on Twitter at ClintAU24 and then the AUD on social media at Auburn Uniforms.
Yes, and you can obviously follow me at TigerEye24 on Twitter, and obviously follow the E2C Network here. Check out some of those links in the description and smash the like button on the way out of here. Clint, as always, even though I give you a hard time, thank you for joining us.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.